This is Analytics with Asa, hosted on the FF Faceoff YouTube channel. Today, I'm joined with a good friend of mine, fellow analytics nerd, Jake Grossman. Jake, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm loving the new FF Faceoff branding. That intro was very sleek. That was enjoyable. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. So
today, happy to be
today,
back on. I was going to say.
yeah, absolutely. Today, we're here to talk about the AFC East. But before we do that, I figured we've kept the whole music theme going so far, the past few episodes we've recorded. So I want to ask you this, Jake. Who is the greatest rock band of all time, in your opinion?
All right. Fortunately, my opinion aligns with how I'd approach this analytically. So analytically, I'd say, okay, let's let the market tell us sales, the Beatles. I think that's a consensus correct. I don't know if a correct answer to this question, but if you had to pick they're the sort of GOATs. I think that's who I'd point to. I also happen to just be a big Beatles fan, listen to their music a lot. I think they were my number one artist on Spotify last year and the year before. So I think that sort of speaks to the fact that I do agree with that opinion as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The Beatles there's no doubt they are quite possibly the most revolutionary band in terms of the impact they've had on rock music as a whole. They're not
Absolutely.
quite my cup of tea because I kind of like the heavier, more aggressive stuff. But I guess I might make the case for a band that has a bit of a stigma associated with its fans, but I really do like Radiohead a lot. I think they're a band that's changed their sound like almost every album they've done, and I really respect that quite a bit. I think they're a band that is always changing with the times. I think their lyrics are interesting, but yeah, they're I think a really good band, but there is that stigma associated with Radiohead fans. So I don't necessarily come out and say that a lot, but yeah, I think Radiohead, I think Beatles, great bands.
No, it's not like you came out here and said Nickelback. It's a perfectly respectable choice. No, that's a fair take. I feel like it's one of those things too where it's a lot easier to have more sales when you've been around you were around that long ago, and there's just been so much time. But yeah, no, that's a fair take.
Here's what I'll say about Nickelback. I don't like them, but How You Remind Me is such a good song, and no one can tell me otherwise.
I won't say I never play a Nickelback song. There's definitely a time and a place where it kind of it kind of hits, but I feel like you can say it about most music. There's no almost bad music. There's just contextual, though. I think maybe there are exceptions to that. But I would say Nickelback, it could work. And How You Rhyme is that's a good song.
It's a banger. All right, so today we are here to discuss something far more important than Nickelback, if there is such a thing, and that is the AFC East. So before we get into team by team and do the exercise we've done with the past few divisions, I want to ask you this, Jake. What would be kind of your main summary of how this division has operated free agency, and what are some favorite moves that teams have made so far that you like the most?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the Bills' resignings, their sort of approach on just sort of locking up their talent. I think people looked at the Bills this year and thought that they might not be, the same version of the Bills that had been a contender in years past, and they showed that they sort of were retooling and a lot of it was addition by subtraction, some of the names that they shed, and now they're sort of locking up a lot of the key contributors from last season, Benford and Shakir and the rest. So it's really something that I think I would say they're definitely sort of saying we're the strongest team in the division. The Patriots are another interesting team. I feel like they had so much space to work with, and it's very hard to attract players to New England. You see this all the time, just because I think one of it being just New England. I think you saw there was something today that even came out with respect to DK where, the Patriots were interested in making a trade for him, and he, nixed that because he wasn't interested in playing there. I think it's tough, but they were able to, draw Milton Williams. They were able to get Carlton Davis. They were able to do some big things, but and Stephon Diggs recently. So they made some big moves and were able to leverage some of that cash that they had because they just needed to spend it on some level and really help, surround Drake May with some talent. But you would have liked to have seen them been able to do a little bit more, I would say. Or maybe just, unfortunately, the market didn't always provide. It was a really weak free agency market. It's just the reality of it too. So the options were what they were. But that was definitely interesting to sort of watch all that play out. The Jets, I feel like, trying to create that new identity. It seemed at first like they were going to play the comp pick game, and they definitely got in the mix and made some signings, some better than others. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more when we get into their roster. But yeah, the Jets seem like they're not like this, they're taking some of their lumps with respect to the cap right now. They're looking to clearly not be the worst team in the NFL this year. The Field signing obviously speaks to that. But I'm not sure this is a team that we should be paying too much attention to. And hopefully, as a Jets fan, people look away for a little bit and let us fix ourselves privately and in peace. But I doubt that'll happen. And then, the Dolphins, it was an old aging roster, and it feels like this is just sort of one of those situations, a little bit like what the Bills last year, where they shed some names. They look like it might be a little bit of a new look next year, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be a good team. I feel like they still have a lot of elite pieces in place. But then you look at the fact that Tyreek could be gone, might be staying. There's definitely been a lot of chatter about that. First he was definitely wanted out, then he was back in. Now you see some recent chatter that maybe he is in. So that'll be interesting there. But I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in this division. It still seems like the Bills are the top dog. Patriots are ascending. Dolphins maybe trying to tread water, come a little bit back and maybe actually put something together and see what they have with this core before maybe they move on from either the coach or the quarterback. And then the Jets, and we're not going to pay attention to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly. What I find so fascinating about this division is that it's one of the few divisions where I think almost every team is on a different timeline. You have the Bills who are firmly in contention. You have the Dolphins who are kind of in contention, but they also have the contract situation with Tua and Tyreek, like you mentioned, maybe wanting out. You have the Patriots who are like at the start of their rebuild, and then you have the Jets who are going to start a rebuild really soon with the way that they've kind of paid bridge quarterback money for Justin Fields. But there was a lot going on. Like you said, the Bills re-signed the players that they needed to. The Jets signed that bridge quarterback. They may draft a quarterback, which we can do once we get into this exercise. But there's a lot going on. So given all of that, do you have maybe a favorite contract or a favorite move made by a team in this division?
Favorite move? Probably the Shakir extension. Maybe the Benford extension. Both were, but I think Shakir. I think getting a receiver at $15 million a year these days who's actually like a starting caliber guy who seems like he has upward trajectory. They sort of got him on one of those deals compared to guys who had similar performance. If you look at a Mooney, a Lazard, over sort of maybe the platform year or the year before or something like that, where you could sort of squint and see, okay, these are the comparable players. But then you look at Shakir's trajectory, the fact that he's getting better every year, the fact that he seemed just so good at getting open last year, it really, and the year before for that matter, he really seems like a guy who can, provide a lot of value on that contract for them. So I'd say that's probably my favorite signing of any team in this division. Yeah.
I think you could argue a few signings, like the Milton Williams one, they overpaid. There's no doubt about that, at least according to what projections were before. But with the Patriots, they had so much money and the talent just wasn't really there. What else were they going to do aside from get a really talented player in, arguably the best player in free agency? So I definitely understand why they made that move. But Khalil Shakir, whenever you get him when he's on the upswing, I think that was a great move by them. And the Bills have done this where they've just gotten guys early. They've kept them happy and they keep Josh Allen's weapons around. And, if they want to keep Keon Coleman to be that potential guy to help out in the future, I think that would be a great move for them as well. But I think they've been really, really good at almost doing what the Packers have wanted to do, where you take a bunch of B tier receivers and you have a really good quarterback, but Josh Allen is much, much better than Jordan Love. And so it's really worked out for them. But I think Bills have operated free agency really, really well. And we'll see what they end up doing in the draft. So I'll ask you this. Are you ready to start our mock draft, or are you ready to start going team by team?
Let's do it.
All right. So as before, we're going to go who finished first in the division backwards. So who finished fourth, third, second, first. So given all of that, the New England Patriots were the team that finished last in this division. They really found their quarterback of the future, and that is Drake May. So let's cover what they have done in free agency so far. All right, so according to PFF, we have all of the moves that they've made. We've already talked a little bit about Milton Williams. Haven't talked too much about Stephon Diggs. I know there is kind of some funny money there. 3 year, $69 million is not really what that contract is. But is there really any overall theme you've noticed with the way that the Patriots have operated in free agency?
They tried to fill holes. I don't think they wanted to go into the draft with a lot of needs. I think they saw that they had a lot of holes in the roster. They were willing to sign guys to relatively larger, longer-term deals and the possibility that the deals work. They went after some, guys who other teams cut in terms of, Landry and Bradbury, which was interesting to me. Not necessarily either a guy I would have, thought was someone I would have targeted in their position, but I understand at least the Bradbury one sort of, maybe I can squint and see it making sense. Landry, I'm not a huge fan of these days. But it was interesting. They certainly want the defense to be better. It's clear that that's a priority for them. Yeah. I guess it comes back to what we've kind of been saying, and it's just sort of beating this drum of like, you have money, you have to spend it. Your roster is really not in good shape. Spend it somewhere. Most of these deals do not have a ton of guarantees beyond the first year or the second year. A couple of them are 2-year guarantees, I think, actually. But even so, it's one of those things where you're not sort of like mortgaging your future to just try to sort of get the roster in better shape. And I wonder the extent to which these are, Vrabel guys, but versus like, just like who's like sort of running the show on some of these personnel decisions. That's, I guess, something I'm definitely curious about. But yeah, I thought this was like a valid attempt. I thought the Godshot trade was not the best for them. But again, yeah, it's just sort of, I guess they didn't have space for him once they sort of had all the other signings. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you put it perfectly that typically the best approach in free agency generally is filling in the holes that you need so that you're not desperate to draft some random player at the position you may need, even if it's not the best player on the board. So I think the Patriots, I can commend them for doing that, even if the players that they're getting are really not the best in the world. Milton Williams, really, really talented. Stephon Diggs is kind of hitting towards his like twilight end of his career, but Carlton Davis is a really solid cornerback. Like you mentioned, Harold Landry, not the best in the world, but at least you're respectable at the position, and you were not last season. Morgan Moses, I like a little bit of an overpay, but all of these guys, I think, fulfill the gaps. Maybe not in the best way that you would want, but in a way that you're not forced to desperately take someone. So I can really respect what the Patriots have been doing. And at the end of the day, you have all of this money. You have to spend it to the spending floor, and they are in the process of doing that now. And so, yeah, I think they've operated free agency really well. So let's go to their roster and discuss the implications that it may have on the draft. And then we'll kind of try to address those once we reach that. So what do you think about the offense of the Patriots so far?
Yeah, I still think there isn't enough there. Like, I think like that sort of receiver tight end room is like, you're giving it like all the weapons are like, they're like kind of locked into these like B minus weapons at a couple of the positions where it's like, I would say that applies to Douglas, Henry, and Stevenson, where it's a little bit like you have these guys, you're comfortable with them, and they play these roles for you, but like, and they're kind of too good to move on from, but not good enough to really raise your ceiling a little bit. So without the access to sort of like some elite guys, it's tough. Like I am a huge fan of going after Travis Hunter for them. For that reason, or like McMillan, I think is a conversation as well, because like, I mean, I think it comes back to this idea of you just need to like give Drake May a chance, and I'm not sure that receiver room is doing it. Like, I think it'll all kind of depend on when Diggs is able to play and what he looks like when that happens. I think otherwise you're sort of just looking at a pretty rough room.
And one of the more desperate needs as well is their left tackle situation. So Vidarian.
No, you can't leave the draft. You can't leave the first 3 rounds without a tackle. I think you can attack it in the 3rd round. I don't know if you ever, even no matter who you're drafting, unless you're going like tackle with that first pick, which I guess you can convince me that there's a conversation about like Campbell or Membo. Like it's one of those things where you're probably not starting him at the start of the season anyway. So you probably do also just kind of like Lowe's probably playing them some games. You probably want someone who you can feel good about long term. But yeah, that's a really good take. Absolutely. The left tackle spot is a major need. And
I think Vidarian Lowe was like a 6th round pick by the Vikings a few years ago, but he's definitely not someone that you can trust to full-time start, especially when you have a young quarterback who you need to develop. So I think that's going to be a potential thing that we could attack in the draft. And then, like you mentioned, receiver is going to be a big one as well, because Stephon Diggs, he's talented when he's healthy, but we don't know when he's actually going to be healthy. And then the rest of the guys are just kind of C+, B- type of guys. And you don't really want that when you're expecting a quarterback to take that next step. So let's move on to defense a little bit. I think their defense got quite a bit better with the way that they address free agency. Obviously, they're rock solid at their starting cornerback with Christian Gonzalez, potentially making that better if we end up drafting Travis Hunter. But yeah, the defensive line is significantly better. Are there any main takeaways that you think we could address in the draft if we're if we're going to attack defense?
Yeah, I think there's no such thing as too much depth on the defensive line. So I would feel comfortable attacking defensive end or interior or the interior for that matter. Just because there's uncertainty there, it's always good to have good pass rushers. their scheme, what is it, 3-3? So you need you could also like look at the idea that like I don't know how confident we feel in Landry. So yeah, there's definitely options there to go after edge rushers, multiple different types depending on what we're sort of thinking about there. Other than that, they're like pretty strong at corner. I think you could like convince me maybe we could draft one late in terms of depth. Third safety, they went after Epps. They seem fine in all three spots there. So I think you get into like maybe a linebacker. Yeah, I would say like interior linebacker could definitely be like part of the conversation. But yeah. All right. That's kind of how I feel about that one. Yeah.
All right, then we are ready to go. Let me switch to this tab. And Patriots have the 4th overall pick. We're going to keep the settings the same just to keep it consistent with the rest of the series. But are there any major approaches that you want to take to this draft? Are we kind of hoping Travis Hunter falls? Are we hoping Abdul Carter falls? Is there like a dream scenario at this 4th overall pick?
Yeah, I think if we can get Hunter, I think that's a no-brainer. I think he's the best player in the draft. Possibly, including Cam Ward, if we're accounting for positional value. I think that's the upside there is incredible. I would try to let him play full time if he's willing, at both positions, I'm saying, and really just sort of, do that. If that doesn't work, I think it's a fun conversation as to whether you go tackle with either the options we mentioned before, whether you go edge rusher if Carter's still there, or whether you go wide receiver if McMillan's there. So I think that's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah. All right, then let's do it. Hopefully Travis Hunter falls. We're going to keep things at turbo because I don't anticipate the Patriots from trading up. Typically whenever I go out of turbo and then try to go back in, it slows the thing down way too much. So we'll just start with turbo.
Sounds good.
So Abdul Carter. All right, this is a dream scenario. So
Abdul this is Carter the Travis Hunter scenario.
Yes. So easy Travis Hunter here. I think you can even make the case that he's a better receiver than Ted McMillan. He has amazing ball skills. He's great at moving the ball. He's a really, really talented player in terms of route running. I think he really has the whole package. And like you mentioned, you also get him to play cornerback part-time. And so I think really, really talented player. Are there any takes you have on Travis Hunter?
No, I think he's as good of a wide receiver prospect as we have in this draft. Better. I think he's pretty clear number one there. His athleticism numbers are off the charts. His production numbers are ridiculously strong. You also have the opportunity to play him at corner. He's also really good there too. So I don't think that's a very tough decision. The only thing I'd highlight is that with only one quarterback off the board, in real life, we might be talking about, hey, is anyone trying to move up for Shadur right now? But I don't think we're in that position. So I wouldn't.
It looks like the Niners. Yeah, Niners are the only team that wants to trade up here. So
unless the Purdy situation really blew up in those contract negotiations, I don't think.
Cool. All right, let's go. We'll go Travis Hunter here, and then we'll move down to the second round. Luckily, we're picking kind of early in the second round. So,
I don't think we'll want to trade up for anyone at the back of the first. Oh, this is great because I'd love to just go Connerly here at left tackle. I don't think this is much of a conversation based on what you were saying before. I think this sort of lines up very nicely. The only other players I'd sort of talk about here, like Donovan Jackson or Ursary, but I think Connerly's a great pick.
Yeah, let's do that. Address a need. And both of these first two picks we're making are instantly making Drake May's job a lot easier. So I think that's the right way to go. And then I really don't hate Omar Norman Lott here. Josiah Stewart is a really good edge rusher, like kind of a sawed-off type of build.
Can you scroll
in the draft? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you scroll down a little bit? I just kind of want to remember who we're working with around here. Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You can scroll back up.
To me, it's between these two, but you can obviously make a case for someone else as well.
No, I think that's fair. Can Stewart be like a stand-up edge guy?
Yeah, my guess is he'd be like kind of the who's the linebacker from the Broncos that plays kind of like half edge rusher, half stand-up.
You're talking about Benito?
Yeah, Benito. Yeah, I think he'd play that type of role because he is 6'1", but he just like that man works so.
No, hard. I kind of love that. I kind of love that fit in the scheme. So yeah, let's go Stewart here. I like that.
Perfect. Okay. And you're getting a guy who is, I believe, he was called like the hardest worker in all of Michigan football, which is just insane. Like if you were the hardest worker in Michigan, then you must be some kind of psychopath. And I really want that guy on my team.
I'd agree with that statement.
All right, next up, we this could be trade down territory, but if you want to look at some guys that have fallen that you like,
yeah, let's take a peek at our options here. And yeah, so we've attacked the defensive line. We've hit the left tackle spot. We've hit the receiver spot with a little bit of corner depth in there thrown in, just because Travis Hunter is awesome. Yeah, I think trade down, a slight trade down 4 spots and pick up I mean, if they're willing to do that, I think that's a no-brainer for us.
This works perfect. Oh, they did not want to do that.
Oh, all right.
Let me see how I can move this around. What other spots?
They're not down. We don't have to.
We can go down 86, pick up 125.
Straight up.
And then I think.
Oh, wow. They're just going to.
Actually, we'll make it a little more realistic here. Yeah, so we're going down 9 spots. We're getting 125. We get 255.
Pretty sure they'll accept this one. Yeah, that's
perfect. All right, so we're going down just a few spots, getting some more depth. Kevin Winston Jr. is a really, really talented safety, one of the best tacklers in all of the draft class right now. RJ Harvey.
I was gonna say. I like RJ Harvey here.
Right.
I like.
Who else?
I like 7A. There's like an interior O-line prospect, but I don't think we have that need right now. I think we covered receiver. Yeah, I think RJ Harvey's fun here. I can also just harken back to when we played a game of NCAA college football, and I could not stop RJ Harvey, and you beat me with Michigan with him. So that was why not? Let's go.
RJ Harvey. Yeah, he was the sole reason I was even in that game. He's really fun using NCAA for those who are not aware.
Yeah, dominant performance.
All right, so we have 106 now. We have.
I like Deion Walker.
I do like Deion Walker. He's someone who was really productive the previous season. Not so much this season, but he's someone who is really, really big. Just was not really a great tester. And I like buying guys like that because typically people kind of overestimate how much athleticism matters. And obviously it's going to matter. We're talking about the NFL, but I feel like with a guy this productive, I think it's definitely worth the pick, especially when you're at the 4th round, someone who was projected to be early 2nd, early 1st before last season. So I'm cool with that. If you are.
What I like about him a lot too, is he has that sort of I feel like he can slot in a bunch of different places in the line the same way sort of Milton Williams can, and the ability to sort of have these different guys that you can sort of plug and play in different places, and Barmore for that matter too. So I feel like sort of building that, we can just throw so many different looks at you with these guys is that's really fun for me too. And I think would be fun for Vrabel.
I agree. Yeah. And it's really what the Eagles have done. And the Eagles are way better at it than anyone else. But whenever you have these sort of hockey lineups where you have all these guys you can trust, I think that would be a great way of handling a defense. So next up, 125. There are some guys who are still here. Barrett Carter still there. Willie Lampkin. He's the really short.
I like Lampkin, but do we need a guard prospect here? I don't really think we have that much need on the interior with the Patriots, right? Because they've got, I guess, Strange has not been healthy enough to justify giving him no competition. I could totally justify a Lampkin pick here.
Yeah, there's Torrey Horton, the receiver from Colorado State. I'm cool with Lampkin. I think he's someone who could be your center of the future.
Yeah, he's probably playing center, I guess, to play. But honestly, that works because Bradbury probably should have some competition. So
yeah, he really does, because as a Vikings fan, I've seen that man play full time.
Yeah, this works. I'm into this. I'm into this. All right, let's go Lampkin here. Competition at probably center. You're right. He's a little too small to play anywhere else.
Yeah. We could double dip at running back, even though I think we have a good room at this point with RJ Harvey and then Ramondre Stevenson. There's another tackle prospect. There's Billy Bowman, the safety from Oklahoma.
Did we go tight end yet?
Tight end? Yeah, that's cool with me.
I like Urasek. I'm not huge on Urasek. I prefer, honestly, I might prefer to wait just because I do like some of the guys that are available later at tight end here. But
yeah, Pat Bryant's still available, the X receiver out of Illinois, 6'3", 200, really big frame.
Do we want to go? We could go another receiver because we've just kind of attacked a lot of these positions. It's hard not to double. Kyle Williams.
I almost like him better, even though he's not quite the X receiver, but he's someone who is a more productive receiver, is a pretty good contested catch guy, a really smooth route runner. That's cool with me.
Yeah, and let him and compute. Yeah. Oh, there's one thing we forgot to do that I forgot that I wanted to do when we were doing the Patriots, and that was trade Joe Milton. But
oh yeah,
But
I mean, it's not too late.
I
At
don't
this
know.
point, maybe not surplus value.
Yeah, unless we want to trade him for a pick next year, just while we're at it. We want to trade him. We want to trade him to someone just in the middle right now while we remember it.
You know what?
Who we trading Joe Milton?
Let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can get.
Yeah, who we trading Joe Milton to?
Joe Milton. Niners may need a.
No. It's got to be a team with a starting need that didn't get a quarterback.
Steelers.
Yeah, let's go Steelers. I like that.
Steelers. Let's see. All right. Can we get a third? We cannot.
Not. You know what? We're going to hold on to Joe Milton if we can't get him.
Yeah, I guess not. I feel like realistically, they could get at least a 4th round pick, especially if the Steelers have like no one left. If they want to add a competition aside from Mason Rudolph, I think Joe Milton would be a good guy to do that.
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't have the Rodgers sort of assumption baked in. All right, so we do have to make a pick here. Unless you want to trade down. If we don't like it.
We could because we don't have a lot of picks after 144.
Ooh, yeah, okay. I don't mind trading down at all here then with that logic. Yeah.
All right, we could drop down 147, maybe a little too shallow of a drop.
Yeah, we might need to drop farther than that.
Yeah, we throw in 238. Let's see if this will happen.
I like
153, 193.
I like that trade a lot. Yeah, let's do that.
And it happens. Perfect. All right, so we're getting a little bit more depth here. And let's see who's still available. All right, Pat Bryant was selected by the Cowboys.
All right.
How about Kyle Williams is still available?
Okay, let's go Kyle Williams then. Done.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but he was Chris Sims' wide receiver 2. I'm not that high on him, but
I did see that. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like doubt Sims because he's like kind of like nails these things sometimes in a funny way.
Yeah. I think it's worth a pick. If you're getting him in the 5th or the 6th round, that's perfectly fine with me. All right, cool. We are at 193. Still have Fairchild available.
Yeah, Fairchild, Jones.
We already selected a wide receiver, but he's 6'5" and runs a 4.3, so that's really enticing.
No, that's enticing. We'll keep that in the back of the mind for another pick. Yeah, I don't think because we already have Hunter and
yeah, we don't want to go too crazy on receiver, but I think
I like Emory Jones here, or just because we already went center, or Dylan Fairchild.
Yeah, let's go Fairchild.
Okay.
Fairchild, a little bit better pass blocker. He's someone who, 6'5", 315, so he's a good frame to play guard. That's cool with me. Fairchild, come on down. All right.
Not the Georgia guard I would have preferred to walk out with, but it's
agreed. Yeah, agreed. All right. Next up, a lot of quarterbacks still here. Jake Majors. We already have our center problem kind of patched up there. There's Teddy Buchanan, Crawford.
Did we take a tight end?
We have not yet.
Let's double up on tight end and go Lakey and Gadsden.
Perfect. All right,
Just take 2 shots.
And where you Gadsden? Perfect. Vrabel likes his tight end, so.
And then I hope to be able to do with these with this pick, but they're not letting me do it yet. I want to be able to draft what's his name, Desmond Watson, but it's not an option.
Yeah. Is he just not on the thing yet?
He's just not in it. Yeah, unfortunately. I tried to do it before. I'm like, honestly, if I had to do like the last bottom 5 pick, I'm either taking like a running back, I guess, if I'm a team that wants one, or I'm just taking that guy because hell yeah.
No, exactly. It's like, is he going to work out? Probably not, but it would be so much fun if he does.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, let's just get him in there on like tush push plays.
No, exactly.
Tush push specialist.
Honestly,
in the same division as the Bills. I respect it. Honestly, I feel like I don't have opinions about anyone this far low.
Not really me either. I'm cool with going UCF because that's where I go to school right now.
Yeah, have you watched him play at all? Who was that? McWilliams, is it?
I have not, so I have not much of an opinion on him. 84 coverage grade is not bad.
Hey, corner is a position I'm happy to. Oh, that's a small corner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
So let me ask you this: before we see our grade, you may get spoiled with the first few.
Yeah. No, I'm covering my screen, so even if it shows up, okay. Can I see it now? Okay, good.
All right. So, what do you think our grade will be? Our final grade?
A-.
A-.
Yeah.
There's a lot of A's here. B+. What?
It didn't like how we finished it. But frankly, if you get A's for the first 2 picks, they got to throw in like a logarithmic way to like assign the grades here. The picks should not be assigned equal weighting on that report card.
I agree. And yeah, you're getting Travis Hunter, who's like the best wide receiver prospect, the best cornerback prospect at the 4th overall. You're getting a tackle. You're getting a really good edge rusher. getting a running back. Like, you're filling up all these needs that you may have, and you're getting a lot of really talented receivers. This, to me, would be a dream scenario draft for the Patriots. So I think we had addressed a lot of those needs while still going upside for guys who may be financially viable to, maintain around for their rookie deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like this draft. I would like this draft a lot for the Patriots. If they can walk out of there with Hunter and Connerly, like they walk out having like not a lot of holes on the roster, which coming to this offseason to say about the Patriots is kind of fun. And I'm sure, come next offseason, this probably wouldn't have worked out entirely, but it gives you a lot of really good shots that I'd say I'd be excited about.
I agree. And yeah, like you mentioned, it gives you like all these bites at the apple, which is what you want whenever you're hitting the draft. And so that's why we traded back. And I think it worked out perfectly that if Kyle Williams doesn't work out, you still have Travis Hunter.
If Travis Hunter has to play corner, you didn't just not draft the receiver. Also, I was kind of getting worried about that.
Corner, it's still fine. Yeah. So I think this is dream scenario for the Patriots. So I am ready to move on to your team, the Jets. So do you have any strong opinions about how the Jets have handled free agency that we haven't already discussed yet? Let me pull up their scenario or their free agency.
Yeah, wait, hold on. I'll wait for you to pull it up. So I'm not talking about
content. So yeah, Fields, Cisco, not a whole lot done, but I think they addressed the quarterback situation, which is a lot better than the Patriots or a lot better than the Steelers have done so far. So yeah, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, not in great company when your quarterback situation is being compared to the 2020 Steelers.
Yeah. It's like, at least we're not like the Steelers. Then yeah, you're
right. Not where you want to be. And frankly, everyone else, I'm not even sure they're saying the Steelers. I think they're saying the Jets. But I will say that it feels like this is the year before the year they decide to like really, really like suck in some ways, or they're hoping this year they're like bad enough. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like how like if you look at the Giants, our crosstown pals there, and they didn't even fire anyone because they're in such bad shape. They're just like, we don't even want to hire anyone yet. We're just going to be so bad for a year, and then we'll fire everyone and actually clean house when we're in a better position to do so. It's like I feel like we're like we just cleaned house. Maybe we should have actually just given everyone another year because we have no ability to fix this right now because there was just going to be so much pain in the short term to just sort of recover from all the win now moves that we made in the Rodgers era. All moves that made sense because you're going to try to win once you go get Aaron Rodgers and he's 39 and 40, but didn't work for reasons that don't need to be restated. I think we all followed it, but didn't work. And this free agency period, I mean, you look at the signings, it's, this isn't a team that's pushing all their chips into the middle. Frankly, I wish they made less of these signings because I think we should have been playing the comp pick game. I understand going after the quarterback. I think you can make that move. I think beyond that, I think the Stevens signing was gratuitous and beyond what he also probably had earned as a player. The Cisco signing I also thought was a lot, and I didn't necessarily think was the best deal at value on the market there. Reynolds just happened. I mean, honestly, by this point, we didn't do anything else to fill the receiver room, and we decided we couldn't even cut Lazard because we couldn't find anyone else to get who could actually play the snaps. So the whole thing's a mess. Myers, I like that signing. The only problem is that I thought we were going to use it to let him play center, push Tittman out to guard, and then let Tucker play tackle. That would have given us a lot of, positional versatility. I've been kind of pushing for them to push Tucker at the tackle, just because I think that sort of is how you can get more value of him as a player. He's actually shown some competency there. But all that notwithstanding, they have said that's not their plan. So that gives me less inspiration to the move. The rest of it's, scraps, right? It's stuff that we needed to do, fill some holes, but it's nothing to get too excited about. We also paid a lot to re-sign Jamie and Sherwood. The linebacker market did get a little wild there for a minute, but that was a lot of money for Jamie and Sherwood, who really looks like an ascending player. He came on great this season, but a lot of money.
One guy I do want to talk about for a second is Kene Nwangu. He's really just a return specialist, but with the way that they've been discussing the rules about potentially moving the kickoff back from the 35 to the 30 may mean that he's going to return the ball more. And he, I believe, leads the league in rushing or in touchdowns from kickoffs in the past few seasons. And so, while it is $2.5 million, I think it's worth it because he's someone who may just make your team more exciting to watch. And whenever you're the Jets, you don't really get that a lot. So, I respect the move there.
Oh, when they brought him in halfway through last season, it was just like a kind of a revelation. It was like, oh, okay, like this is what a good. And I'm not trying to throw shade here on Gibson, but this is what a good returner looks like. Like it's like,
yeah,
this is exciting. So that was, Yeah, I'm happy they brought him back. It seemed like a move with good foresight, knowing where the rules were going to go, because I agree with you that return rates are going to be much, much, much higher this year and happening a lot of volume. Maybe, there might be more return yards and yardages and attempts this year than we may have seen in a really, really long time, because last time return rates were this high, teams were not scoring like they do today. So this is going to be fun. If you're in a return yardage fantasy football league, take note, find the returners around the league and get them on your roster, because it will matter.
Agreed. So let's move on a bit to their depth chart, and we'll start with their offense. So obviously they're rock solid with Garrett Wilson being their wide receiver 1. They address some of those needs at their secondary receiver spots. My guess is Lazard is gone, but I don't know for sure about the financial ramifications of moving on from him. Their offensive line it's not terrible. Olu Fashanu, I think, is a good left tackle, and I believe they drafted him last season. But I think they're really in this transitionary phase where if things do end up working out for Justin Fields and for the other positions that they address, they could be okay. But just give me your thoughts briefly about their offense and what they may be able to do to improve in the draft.
Sure, yeah. So I will tell you that when we get in there, I am going to try to find out the draft cost to trade for one of Dallas Goedert or Mark Andrews.
Okay.
They're both I think Goddard is more likely in real life to get moved. It seems like the Ravens are a little bit more comfortable keeping Andrews now, while Goddard, the Eagles are still sort of talking about him as if he's on the team right now, but that might not last. They have a lot of players who they've extended recently, and it doesn't look like they're willing to pay him. Goddard doesn't necessarily align with the Jets' timeline, but frankly, it's really hard to find a high-caliber tight end who can add value in all phases of the game like him, and I would be ecstatic if they can move, a later pick for him. So I will definitely try to get in there and sell the tight end spot. You can't leave this draft without a tackle. The Jets should not and cannot go into the next season without Carter Warren, with Carter Warren at that spot. You're definitely going to need to try to grab a receiver in one of the first 3 rounds. Just keep taking your shots there. The receiver room is not pretty after Garrett Wilson. In fact, it's quite awful. So that will definitely have to be addressed when looking at the offense. I don't think this is the year to take a quarterback. It's not a good quarterback class. You don't even want to pay the guy you gave Justin Fields the money to play all year. Just let Justin Fields play all year, and hopefully, he's bad enough that you can get a quarterback next year, or he's good enough that you want to ride with him next year, and he just doesn't split that difference. He'll probably split that difference, but I think that's what sort of my takes on the offense. The offensive line is actually in decent shape going into the season, which is going to the draft, which is kind of rare, but we definitely do need to do something about the right tackle spot. And I feel like I sort of summarized that. No running backs, could not be deeper in that room.
No, exactly. One thing I want to ask you is, how far would Shedeur have to fall for where you would want to take him with the Jets? Like, if we're in the beginning of the second round and he's still
take him. It's Shedeur. Yeah, no, Shedeur should not be there in the beginning of the second round. If Shedeur's there Shedeur's there at the end of the first round, we should trade up and grab him with the 5th-year option. No doubt.
Okay, then we can kind of go slower just to see, hey, if he's still available, I'm cool with trading up, because, like you mentioned, Justin Fields is like a temporary stopgap at that position. But it's 2 years, it's $20 million a year. It's nothing too substantial. And so if you want to take a quarterback, you still can with the way that they paid him. But yeah,
absolutely.
I think you mentioned it perfectly, that this is not the best year in the world to need a quarterback. But I think Shedeur is talented. He's very accurate. And frankly, whenever you hit on a quarterback, none of that matters at all, financially. And so that's cool with me if he ends up falling that far.
Oh, absolutely. I was speaking about it as if because I just kind of I feel like there's a lot of chatter about Shedeur. We're sort of in the heat of sure. All the misinformation. I feel like the idea of Shedeur really falling, I've heard all this stuff about the interviews. It's probably based in a lot of, truth, but it doesn't mean that this guy is going to fall. It's a quarterback with a decent amount of talent in the NFL draft. I don't think he's going to fall into the latter half of the first round, or at least far into it. Now, if he does, I will be saying, the Jets should trade up and try to get him here, because at that point, you're getting a pretty good price on a quarterback with a lot of talent that's falling for reasons probably not related to that talent. And in a lot of ways, that's the kind of guy you go after.
Agreed. So defense, I think they're still pretty strong here. And things were a bit weird last season whenever they fired Saleh and their numbers kind of tanked. But Will McDonald's a solid edge rusher. Quinnen Williams is still one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. It's Sauce Gardner, obviously a great cornerback. They ended up losing the second cornerback.
DJ Reed's gone.
Yeah, DJ Reed.
We replaced him with Brandon Stevens, but and Ashton Davis is gone and replaced with Andre Sisco. But I do think that we are in a decent position to still have a great defense. Like this defense fell off a little bit in the back half of last year. It wasn't really ever its strongest all year, but there's still a lot of talent on this team. I will say a lot of that talent came back to like the defensive line depth that we had a couple years ago. That just isn't the case anymore. The guys that were the depth then are the starters now in a lot of cases, and that we definitely need to go after interior defensive line and open more looks for Quinn and have someone else like, eating up more blocks there. We definitely need more depth on the edge in the edge room. Like, Johnson and McDonald are great, but they're, not really they're not really it. Like you need more than that. You can't just have two good edge guys, I think. And then, I think we could probably, definitely attack safety and corner. Michael Carter didn't have his best year, but he's still, he's just starting his new extension. Hopefully bounces back. Secondary positions are notoriously unstable in terms of performance. I think you can expect the same thing for Sauce. He's that elite form is, likely to come back at some point soon, hopefully. And then, Stevens, I'm not a huge fan of, but I don't know if we attack cornerback too much. Not drafting a kicker, but you better damn believe that we're not doing that. That Greg Zuerlein will not be the kicker next season. If I
All right, then I'm cool with going into this draft.
All right, let's do it.
Jets are at the 7th overall pick, and we can go a little bit slower just to see what happens. Like I said, we're probably not taking Shedeur with 7 overall, but if he does end up falling towards the back half of the first round, I think trading up would be really in their interest.
Yeah,
so this is word goes. Go ahead. Oh, Shedeur.
Okay, yeah, Shedeur. So that's okay. That's
all right. That's out the window.
But I was just gonna say no. The Jets, it's like fun because you end up in that sort of fun situation where if Shedeur is there, you can talk about that, and then otherwise, it's like either way, you have like also like a lot of sort of like positions you can attack here that are the positions that are at the top, and in terms of like interior defensive line, tackle, receiver. So it's fun.
Yeah. So Abdul Carter is actually still on the board. I don't think the Jets are really in the type of situation to be trading up, but I mean, I can entertain the idea.
I don't want to trade up. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of like. I would sooner trade down and then trade up. I don't think it's worth it. Okay, hold up. Hold up.
I don't think this is happening, but I'm not going to complain about it happening.
I think we have to. So we're drafting Abdul Carter here. I guess that's easy.
Oh, 100%.
Granted, like I would have been psyched with McMillan. So like, yeah, Carter's great. Let's do Carter.
All right, Carter.
Okay.
That was a very easy decision.
Yeah. The only thing is like we now have a lot of holes that we don't have that many picks to attack them with, but hopefully
this may be trade down territory because of that.
Yeah, if we could pick up another top 100 pick. Hold on, who else wants to trade down? Because if there's someone with like
there's
a combo of a
Bills
couple
at 56,
is
Panthers
there anyone
at
with a combo of like 2 picks that are like in the top 80? I'm trying to remember who's traded there.
Bills have 56 and 62.
Right, that's exactly who I want to be targeting with this pick.
Right,
no, maybe not 73. Can you try 110? Can you just try doing 110 and 42 for 6? Yeah.
Yeah, that could work. Let's get that.
Yeah, that's what I would want to do here.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. So we're getting 56, 62. Moving down just a few spots to get way more depth. So that is cool.
That'll give us just a way to add like one more impact player here, which I think will be really helpful.
There's
the thing is I do really like the players in the range we were just in. Hold on, scroll down a little bit just so I can go full. All right, so I like Ursary here. Like I think he can be a starting right tackle in the NFL. He's got the size for it. He has good feet. He can do it. I think that would be a really strong pick here. And he would probably start, like week 1, honestly.
Yeah, and he's one of those rare guys that because it seems to me like most of the tackle/guard prospects that are in this draft are tackle/guard prospects and not pure tackle. He's one of the few that's actually a pure tackle, and I think that's what the Jets need right now. So,
right. We don't have a need on the interior like that. He's I think he's kind of the no-brainer choice there. That's kind of it. Yeah, that's a fun one. I love Schlesinger as a prospect. Hopefully I'll get to take him in another one of these, but I don't think he's the right fit for the Jets there with just sort of the resources they have invested at linebacker.
There's Omar Norman Lott. He's one of the most productive interior pass rushers. And, he didn't play a ton of snaps, but when he was there, he was really good. 18.9% pass rush win rate, which is really good. He could be a pairing with Quinn Williams, although they're both kind of smaller, like pass rush type of guys. So CJ West.
I was thinking also Benjamin Morrison.
Morrison could work. Yeah.
I think he's fallen down boards. He has the ability to be like a really strong corner across from Sauce. And like, just like as soon as like this, like we kind of have the ability to also like let him redshirt a little bit, which, like, I don't know, like he had all those health troubles at the end of last year. So in some ways, maybe that's necessary. Like, but anyway, I would like the Morrison value here, even though it doesn't solve as much of a need. But guess the idea also is I like Morrison a bit more than a lot of the corner prospects, and we pick in 10 picks, and I feel like we like a few of the interior defensive line prospects, right?
Agreed. Yeah. And Morrison, like his actual tape is first round grade. It's really just the health concerns that have people worried. And like you said, the Jets right now don't have some crazy need at cornerback where they have to start him right away. Like you said, they can afford to actually redshirt him 1 year, and that may be in his best interest health wise. So I think that would be a perfect pick for the Jets.
Yeah, I like the Morrison pick.
Now let's see. Alfred Collins is still available. I think this may work out perfectly because
I think we just played the draft perfectly, man.
I think we did. Yeah, I appreciate the recommendation on Morrison. All right, Alfred Collins, perfect run stopper, bigger guy, so we can pair up really well with Quinnen Williams. And
exactly, if we can grab what's his name here, Kyle Williams, then and hit the receiver spot too, then
yeah,
I think we nailed this one. Let's see.
Let's see who's still available at receiver. Kyle Williams is still available. Yep, that is, I think, a perfect trade or a perfect pick here.
Yeah, I think we were kind of killing it, man.
I agree. Let's see, and we could also take a flyer. I don't know if you want to go Ewers. I know, like
I would go McCord over Ewers, but I want to see what tight ends are here.
Yeah, let's see what we got
because we never attacked that. Oh, yep, that's exactly who I want too. He, 5-star prospect, got hurt, so he didn't really have a ton of like strong production, but incredible athlete, exactly what you want to invest into the tight end position. I'm into it.
Low drop rate as well, which you really want from a tight end.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. All right, I would even double up a tight end, but I don't know if we need to. It's just the tight end room is so rough.
Yeah, let's see if we can get.
If we can pick up an extra pick, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. Let's see what we can do here.
Right, I actually have messed around with this situation before. It's a little hard to find anything that works, but
that is true. Whenever you're getting into like where their picks are almost the same,
right? No, I'm just pretty sure I was actually like preparing for this podcast. Oh no, that could work. I mean, I guess
yeah, I think it works.
Moving slightly earlier, why not?
Yeah, a little bit of value.
It's good.
All right. There's Ewers, there's Show, Emory Jones. There's a lot of these like mid-tier quarterback prospects are still available, but typically whenever you're drafting a quarterback this late, it's kind of like just setting that pick on fire. But I think Ewers is like someone who I guess has the highest ceiling of all the quarterbacks.
I'm not touching Ewers. I wouldn't draft him with the Mr. Irrelevant spot.
That's fine. All right, Emory Jones is still available.
Emory Jones, I don't dislike here. Giving us another just sort of like, you have a need a tackle, give yourself a second option.
Yeah, Fairchild still available.
I think I would go Conyers or what's his name, Emory Jones, for the same reasons of like, and maybe we could just go both here for the same reasons of like we have a need there, and it's like a huge need that we just don't have a fill in for in the roster. So why not take two shots at that?
Yeah. All right, let's go Jones first, and then if Conyers is still there, which he is, perfect.
All right, done.
And he's a really good run blocker, which is really what you want from your tight end too, because he's typically going to be on the edge there. So yeah, perfect for me.
I don't even know if he's tight end too, to be honest, right? Like we drafted the other tight end, like, 30 spots above him. I think they would probably be like have equal shot to win that job on some level in camp.
Yeah, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Abdul Carter gets an A+, no surprise there. Before I spoil the rest, what do you think we got in this draft?
I think we reached a lot towards like the end, low key, or towards like the middle. So I think we could end up with like, I think B+ again seems
B+,
right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe this time we got an A-, who knows?
B+, there you go, right on the nail.
Yeah.
Hit the nail right on the head. All right. So, but honestly, at this point, it's like once you get past the top 80, 90 prospects, it's really just get the guy that you like. And guys like Kyle Williams, to me, are perfect value. Getting a tight end is good. Jalen Conyer is a really good athlete. Like all these guys to me are totally worth it because you're just taking picks at that point. And it's not like you have some immediate need there, but just bites at the apple to me is almost always worth it.
Oh yeah, we could have gone Ricky White there. I'm now remembering. I would have liked him actually. I'm not thinking, but yeah, I don't know. There's like exactly, you just sort of think about, okay, who do I like? It's available around this like spot in the draft. Sort of the same thing we did last time with the Patriots. It's just like, grab who you like, grab prospects at positions of need, just keep attacking them.
Yeah, I'm really surprised Morrison got a C, but I guess they don't love his health, so that's a possibility. But yeah, I think this would be perfect for the Jets. You're addressing immediate needs really with the tackle position, cornerback potentially as well, but you're getting much, much better at the edge rusher with Abdul Carter being like
Carter falling a 7. I mean, that's
no, I don't think that's happening. But if it does, like I feel like the Jets are going to sprint that pick in because he's just one of the safest picks you can make in this entire draft, and getting him at 7 to me is perfect.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Moving up next, we have the Dolphins. And the Dolphins were one of the least active teams in free agency just because they had almost no money. So Let me pull up the moves that they made, and we will discuss that. Cool. So they signed a lot of guys, but almost all those guys are just kind of bodies to fill up training camps. Not really guys that we expect to be immediate starters or guys.
I think that's their safety room, to be honest, though. I think like Melifonwu and Davis, I think that is who's starting at safety for them. So with the exception of that, which, like, yikes. But
maybe James Daniels is their starting guard. But aside from that, there's not a lot of guys.
Westbrook Aquino will be their third receiver. Like, like not that the third receiver in that offense is like so important, but I mean, Zach Wilson will play a game probably because Tua is Tua, but
yeah. So, and I don't hate that move either. Wilson is, I guess, like an average backup quarterback, so that's fine with me.
Bringing back Eichenberg's a choice.
Yeah, for sure. And then, signing Alexander Madison is like a short yardage back who not very, very great in his career so far, but Raheem Mostert got released. He was someone who had a really, really good season the season before last, but I think he's 31 or 32, kind of older for a running back. But yeah, they made a lot of moves, but not all these moves are like that impactful. So there's going to be a lot of moves we have to make in the draft, I think, to make this team much better.
Yeah, Madison looked really, really good in like his first like couple, maybe 2, maybe 3 years as like Cook, I guess Dalvin Cook's backup, and really has looked washed since then. And it's one of those situations where like, it's like it reminds me of Khalil Herbert a little bit. It's like, it would have been fun if that guy got the opportunity right when he got in the league. He looked pretty good, but he's not so good anymore. So let's stop pretending that he's that guy he was 3 years ago too, just because he had now as an opportunity. It's just one of those situations I always found funny with Madison. But
no, for sure. Yeah, because I remember in fantasy, people would always draft him in like the 9th or 10th round because you knew you would get at least 3 running back 1 weeks out of him whenever Cook would inevitably go down every year. But whenever he actually got that starting job was just not very productive.
No.
All right, let's move on to the depth chart for the Dolphins. And obviously they have Waddle, Nick Westbrook-Akine. We already talked about. He's going to be their wide receiver 3. Tyreek Hill, I guess, may get traded, but we're probably not going to do that in this draft simulation. Their offensive line.
We forgot to do the tight end trade. Damn it.
Oh, I apologize for that. Yeah.
No, that's me. I said I was going to do it, and then I spaced. That's all good.
It happens. Their tight end, Jonnu Smith, he became like a really focal part of that offense as the year went on. So I'm expecting that to kind of continue. Tua is obviously their quarterback of the future, and then Devon Achane had a pretty productive season, just aside from the fact that he almost always got tackled behind the line of scrimmage because their offensive line was so bad. But yeah, are there any really immediate needs you think we should tackle? I guess offensive line is going to be a big one. But
I was going to say, your left guard spot's a mess. Your right guard spot's nothing to be that excited about either. Armstead's is retired in all but signing the forms. So I guess Patrick Paul is going to play left tackle because you're going to give the rookie from last year a shot at it. So I guess we probably leave like that spot, like to Patrick Paul. But yeah, the offensive line definitely needs work. The receiver room, I think we operate as if Tyreek's going to be there. I think we try to assume they're just going to like do their rock. Like we're just going to try to do this one last year and see if we can make everything work. I think that's it for the offense.
Cool. All right, moving on to defense. It's really not amazing. They still have Jalen Ramsey, who's getting a little bit older for the cornerback spot. Their defensive line, aside from Jalen Phillips, is a little bit shaky. Jalen Phillips, despite being aside from Chop Robinson, actually, Chop Robinson's really, really good.
I was going to say Phillips and Robinson. Yeah, they have it listed weird, and I liked Mo Kamara in the draft last year. They definitely need to add. Zach Sealer is pretty good too.
I guess the issue is Jalen Phillips has had really bad injury concerns, so that's something worth mentioning. But yeah, I think at the edge position they're fine. Bradley Chubb is still pretty solid. Chop Robinson had a great rookie season. Their secondary is not amazing. There's still some needs here, I think.
I think attacking, frankly, there's a lot of holes on this roster and not enough picks for the Dolphins to fill them. I found myself when I was doing like Dolphins prep, I'm just trading down because one, this is a draft where you kind of want to trade down anyway. 2, it's pretty easy to trade down and pick up some picks in the PFF mock draft simulator. And 3, it's just kind of, good process to trade down regardless. And you have all these holes. So,
yep. All right, perfect. So let's load up a mock draft simulator and see what we can do with the Dolphins. So Dolphins are picking at 13, and 13 is one of those spots where there's a lot of edge rushers that are still available. So there could be some team that's interested in trading up for a guy like that. So like your James Pierce Jr., your Mike Greens of the world. But yeah, I think this was probably going to be prime trade down territory, but we will see what happens.
And I
don't think Abdul Carter's falling here.
If you're the Dolphins in this draft, like there's a lot of edge rushers I think that you could clump together, and that a lot of teams are going to have very different grades on. Like you could almost there's like sort of those like group of like 6 or so guys after Abdul Carter that you really could have in a lot of orders, and I'd respect that. And if I were a team like the Dolphins and I say I want to go edge round 1, I would not have I don't want to call arrogance, but I would not have the scouting sort of like hubris to say, I'm going to take the guy that I have number 1 on my board. I'm going to say, I'm going to move down as much as I can and take whoever the last guy I have in that tier is, because realistically speaking, like you just need the volume of picks, as we're sort of saying, and take all that surplus value and the cheaper contract and all the above.
Agreed. All right, perfect. So most likely going to trade down, but we'll see what happens unless Abdul Carter falls again. But all right. So we are at the 13th spot. Tech McMillan is still there, which is really surprising.
So we're trading Tyreek Hill, or
yeah, no, honestly, that would maybe be the move. But we still have Malachi Starks, Mike Green, Will Johnson. I think to me, this is prime trade down territory. If we want to go Josh Simmons later on, I think we can, because we still have that need of offensive line. But there's so many guys that we could take.
I think we can totally trade down here comfortably.
All right, let's see. So we have the Falcons at 15 and then the Broncos at 20. So which one are you more so feeling?
Would they give us their second? No. So if we can get the Broncos second, I would do that.
Yeah, let's see what we can do. I think that's realistic.
Straight up first and second.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, 79%.
Yeah.
I mean, we could ask for more, but I think this is probably realistic.
You could ask for a move up in the third or something.
Yeah, 85 122, and then we'll kick him like a 7th. And I think this is realistic.
I like that. All
right, they accept. All right, so we're getting another top 100 pick, which I think is great. And you're only dropping 7 spots for a position you may end up taking anyway. So we still have.
I would have loved to go Jalen Walker there.
Yeah, he could have.
Okay, hold on. Let's see who we've got in the edge. Who's still available at edge? Can you sort by position?
Yeah, I can sort it. Yeah, edge rusher. We have.
But frankly, I'm also comfortable going Starks if we move. We have Scouted. We have Scouted and Pierce that I feel comfortable with for sure here. Ozariku too, I guess.
Yeah, there's still that need of offensive line, and Kelvin Banks is still there.
Yeah, in the interior, that would be awesome. Walter Nolan also would be a good pick, frankly. So I still feel comfortable moving down a little bit. Derek Harmon also. Yeah, I would move down again.
All right, let's see. Okay, Chargers at 22, and then the Commanders at 29. Is there one you're kind of leaning more towards?
If we can get Commanders first and second, I would do it.
Let's see. All right, so we're dropping down 9 spots. Yeah.
60, take a little more. Why not?
Let's see.
We can do it.
29, 61. Let's slide like this.
Yeah, slide them to 7th again.
A little more realistic.
And then, slide them a slightly higher pick. Oh, that's a lot higher.
And then give me 245.
All right, fine.
How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, why not? I guess that kind of limits the benefit of the Denver trade a little bit, but whatever.
Just a
yeah, okay. Let's do it.
All right. So Kelvin Banks went. There's Gray Zabel, who's one of the safest picks, especially if you're going to play him at interior, because he was really, really good. You can still go Connerly. You could go.
I think what position do we feel like we're going to have a harder time filling later in the draft? And to me, that's edge. If I want to go edge, I want to go scout in here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, let's do it. And then, at 48, there's still some guys that are going to be available.
I would go Watts. I'd go Watts and then Ursary.
Yeah, no, we have 3. We have a pick 3 picks later. So
yeah,
I think that'd be perfect.
Watts is a fun pick here. We can also go corner and Hairston. I like Hairston here a lot, actually.
Yeah, Hairston, and he plays that like off coverage type of guy, and so I think that would be good for their defense. He ran, I think, the fastest 40 in the draft. So that's obviously going to be.
Revel could be fun too.
Yeah. Revel had some injury concerns, but he's one of those freak athletes who's long and really fast. Really good.
Yeah, I kind of like that pick here, actually.
Cool. All right, let's do it, Revel. And then next up, we can go tackle. If we want to double dip at corner, we still can. There's still some guys available. Ursary could work. We may be able to get Ursary at 61 as well, because we have him. We have another pick 10 picks later. So
if we don't get Ursary, what's our best alternative to that? Like, is there another tackle prospect?
Let's see. I think Mbo is probably next up.
He's more interior though. Yeah. Millam can play on the outside, and Cam Williams can. Cam Williams play on the outside? Oh, Charles Grant. He can definitely, right?
Yeah, he's probably going to play a little more interior because he is 6'4", which I guess is not like massive for a tackle, but he's like one of the most violent run blockers in the entire draft, and we could get him way later.
Yeah.
So it's really your pick here, but I'm cool with going tackle if we want. Or go ahead.
I think tackle's such an important position. It's really kind of you really can't just like skimp on it for like. There's no interior defensive lineman. No, we're not going to double up on corner.
Yeah. There's
I think the answer is go tackle here.
Cool. All right, let's do it. You feeling Ursaray?
Yeah, I think Ursaray is the right answer, right?
All right, let's do it. All right, next up we have 61, so there still could be some guys. Demetrius Knight is still there, which is a little surprising, but Omar Norman Lott is still there as well.
We didn't do interior defensive line yet, right?
We have not. I don't think so. Yes, Scourton, Revel, and Ursaray. So I think he could complete that attack on defensive line.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Let's do it.
I know you wanted to get him in one of these.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's one of the guys I really like. So really productive, and he's fun. All right. We have Lathan Ransom still available. There's Cameron Williams.
Okay, I like the idea of going an interior lineman, but Cam Williams is more of a true tackle now.
Yeah, kind of a longer guy.
Yeah,
and his arm length is crazy, so that could be more of a pure tackle type of guy. Anthony Belton, I don't know much about him, but
Belton's also a true tackle. I understand.
Yeah,
Walker, we could just go Walker and continue to attack the trenches on some level. But
it's fine to double dip there. I think,
we have a lot of picks in this range where we can like go more players that like. I like this plan. Flanker, I like a lot at safety.
I do like Kobe Bryant. He's small but feisty, really good against the run despite being like 175 pounds. Yeah, he's 91 run defense grade.
I would double up.
He's a good trash talker as well.
I love Kobe. I've been attacking him. I've been getting him in a lot of my drafts, so I'm perfectly happy going Kobe here and doubling up at corner too.
Yeah, I think Kobe works. And you just want guys like that, especially at the corner spot.
And then we can still get Sanker. It's awesome.
Yeah. All
let's grab Sanker.
Next up, who is it?
Do you want to grab Sanker?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's grab a safety because I don't really like their safety room at all. I would definitely want to bring another body there, and he can do a lot of different things in the field. One of those modern backs.
Tootin definitely.
Oh, I love that fit.
Yeah, like I don't know if they need him, but I don't hate this pick. But there's some guys available still. Jack Kaiser, Zy Alexander's not a terrible corner as well, but we've already kind of gone heavy on corner. I wouldn't hate
going wide receiver here, but I really don't like there's no wide receiver you want to attack in this range. I like
let's see if there's anyone. Yeah, there's like the ex Pat Bryant, Kyle Williams. I think he'll be there later whenever we want to pick. If we want to,
I would also go. I would go Pat Bryant with the next pick, low key. I just feel like he'll be the next pick. Let's go a little bit.
Yeah, I think Kaiser could work.
I could add another body to the linebacker room. Yeah, I don't know much about Kaiser. What's his game?
Yeah, he's pretty good against the run, which like their run defense wasn't great last season, and so shoring up that I think would be good. He's a little bit undersized for linebacker. 230 is not like massive, but I think it's fine to get him here. All right, and then if Bryant's still available, we could go him. Bashal Tootin went to the Eagles. I think that's kind of scary, even though Tootin to me is more of a zone guy, and the Eagles run a lot of like gap schemes. But he's really talented, and the Eagles like talented guys, so I think that works for them. But yeah, it's really your pick here at receiver. There's Williams, Tesla's a really freak athlete. Pat Bryant, Torrey Horton, any of these guys work for me. So it's really up to you.
I don't mind. I don't hate the idea of getting them like some sort of like contrast. Like I feel like they're gonna mix up. Like I don't think like this like leaning into speed is like the end all be all with what they're trying to be. I think they'd like to be a more real offense. So I don't hate getting them like a real act with like Pat Bryant.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it. Especially if the Tyreek Hill stuff doesn't work out, you have him waiting in the wings. So yeah, that's cool with me.
Yeah.
And we've also gone pretty heavy on tight end, and it's not like Jonnu Smith is super young. So if we want to go Urasek here, we still can.
I just like the tight end so we can take him the 7th, where like Gadsden kind of reminds me of Smith in some ways, even though he's like much worse of an athlete, frankly.
Yeah.
But kind of the ways I would want to use him in terms of like the shovel passes and underneath stuff. I'd go Williams.
Laughlin could work. He was really good prior to the injury. Tyler Cooper, good athlete.
Did we take a guard yet?
I don't know if we have.
No, I don't think we did.
We
right?
took Ursray pure tackle. Yeah, I say we.
Yeah, we should take a guard. I like that. Okay.
Cool. And Luke Kendra.
Was Luke Kendra the one?
Have,
I thought it was the other one. Oh.
Yeah, we still have 4 picks left, so I think they're all late 6th, early 7th rounders.
These should all be 7th if it's 224, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that should be because it ends at that's for sure 7th.
Yep. 7th. Perfect. All right, so.
I like Gadsden.
Yeah, we can double dip again here.
I like Mertz as a Tua backup too. Also, I think there's he's very accurate in the short game, in the exact kind of a similar way to Tua. I think he'd be a much better backup fit than Skylar Thompson or whoever they've been.
All right, let's do that.
Or Zach Wilson, I guess, is the option. I'm not sure he's worse than Zach Wilson.
All right. At this point, really just flyers. Fintrell Cypress could just be some body to take. Has someone taken Thornton yet? Because he's gone. Dang it. Yeah, at this point, I'm fine with just going more guards because they're still not amazing at guard and just shoring up that a bit. And 253.
I'd grab a running back because I don't think Madison's. I want him to make the roster. So, which running backs do we have here?
I just skipped running back. There's Edwards. We can go Michigan.
Fuck it, Donovan Edwards. Oh, probably shouldn't have said that on your channel. I don't know what the rules are.
You're good, man. You're good.
God, Donovan Edwards is not someone any team should draft. I should throw that out.
No, I agree.
There's no Michigan endorsement going on here.
All right, A-. Yeah, I guess it's just because we took a lot of guys that address needs, and there was no immediate reach that we had aside from maybe Jack Kaiser, but you need linebackers, so that's cool with me. And I guess Donovan Edwards was one of the lowest graded picks, but Revel, getting him in the 2nd round, I think is perfect. Ursray addresses a tackle need. Omar Norman Lott, Deanna Walker. They almost together form a really complete defensive lineman, but separate. One's good at pass rush, one's good at the run. So all these are good positions.
And let's just talk about for a second, the original draft picks they had, right? They went into this draft with, we had, what?
It was.
No, can you go back up for a second? Sorry.
Yeah. Does it say?
So we had no, because we could see what picks we traded.
Oh, the one we traded. Yeah. So we have
because we came in and we had just that 13th pick and the 48th pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we added 2 extra 2nd round picks in there by moving down in the 1st round to grab. I think I don't know, is my difference between Mike Green and Nick Scourton that much that I wouldn't rather also be able to pick Ursary and Norman Lott? To me, that's I think if you're offering me that trade of those 3 guys for Mike Green, I don't think it's a close question of what you'd rather stake your team in and get 3 sort of getting those 3 shots at, bites at the apple there, as we're sort of saying, I think is filling 3 holes when we sort of said the Dolphins have so many of these places where you'd kind of love to add another player in those position groups. So I like how we handled this for sure.
Yeah, me too. It addresses a lot of depth needs as well, and that's really what you want from a draft. So getting all this capital I think is perfect, especially this time of year or this type of draft as well, because it's not like there's a ton of top heavy guys, and it's not like the Dolphins were going to be able to pick those guys anyway at the 13th spot, aside from maybe Ted McMillan, who fell for I don't know what reason. But getting Nick Scourton, he could end up going mid 1st round for all we know. And all of this to me is a really flat draft curve.
But hey, if Ted McMillan falls and you're the Dolphins and you're hey, we're running it back with Tyreek, we really don't have a big need at receiver. Hey, trade back, get the huge package for the team that, the Broncos or whoever it was here that really does want Ted McMillan. I actually have no idea if they drafted Ted McMillan. Can you check?
That is a good question. I don't know if I'll be able to wait.
You can click on it right below. I believe that's the 1st round right below it.
Yeah. Did they take that?
They did?
Matthew Golden.
Oh, okay. Where did Ted go? I can't see on my screen.
He went 15 to the Falcons.
Oh, Ted across from Drake London. That's scary.
Just 2 giant receivers.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if you're a team no way you have multiple guys that can match up with that man to man. You can't. You literally, you have no choice but to just sort of hit him with some zones.
No, that's true. Yeah, Kenneth Grant going to 24 from Minnesota. That would be a dream scenario as a Vikings fan. But yeah. All right, cool. So, any final thoughts on the way that we've handled this draft simulation?
No, I think so far we're 3 for 3 in terms of just taking exactly what the team sort of needs to do with the draft and just keeping with that, goal and mindset and just sort of nailing it. Maybe forgetting to do a veteran trade here or there, but other than that, I think we're killing it, man.
Agreed. All right, so let's talk about the final team in the AFC East, the team that finished first overall, and that was the Buffalo Bills. So they had a relatively active free agency because their cap situation is really not too bad. Getting Joey Bosa 1 year, $12 million, I think is a great buy low option. Right. Josh Palmer, I don't know if you've seen this, but someone compared him to like the median receiver, that if your receiver's better than Josh Palmer, he's all right. If he's below Josh Palmer, he's really not so great. But do you have any final thoughts?
The Tyler Boyd line. I'm familiar.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. But they, I think, handled free agency well.
I don't think Josh Palmer is that good of a receiver.
He's not great.
It's fun. Like, I don't work for anyone in sports, so I can kind of just go, oh yeah, I don't think this guy's good. Like, I could just kind of say that and it's fun. I don't think Josh Palmer is a very good receiver. I think he's fine. I think he's Justin Herbert with him. I think he's been decent at getting open his career by some of the advanced metrics. But at some point, the lack of production, I think, speaks for itself. Yeah. And he's certainly had opportunity. Joey Bosa, I thought was a great signing. Ogunjobi, I like, sort of throwing up the interior there. Michael Heck's such a fun player. The Rams definitely didn't use him in the best way. Sometimes they would just kind of let him go into coverage. Not sure you want to do that, but I do think that he's a really good player and versatile. And the Bills, if it can be really creative with him. Re-signing Ty Johnson was good. He showed in some ways to be really successful in that scheme. And he's just a player I've kind of always liked. He was on the Jets for a bit. He was on the Lions, just sort of teams that I've always kind of had to follow or wanted to follow. The safety group's weak. We'll pull up the roster in a second. But they, as we talked about before, I mean, look at those extensions. Every single one of those deals is good value. The Allen deal is, incredible value. He could ask for $10 million more a year. And I feel like that sort of sets the stage too, where it's when everyone's taking discounts, it's hard to be the one pushing for every last dollar. And that's I think the situation probably Benford sort of ran into too a little bit, because he also probably couldn't ask for more than Rousseau. So it's setting if you're the Bills, you say, okay, I have to negotiate with these guys. Let me negotiate with Rousseau first, because I know that'll set a cap on Benford. It's those things where they just sort of handled everything really smartly, Bill showing that they're one of the best run organizations.
100%. All right, so let's go into their depth chart. And they have a lot of solid guys at receiver, with Keon Coleman being their draft pick last season. Josh Palmer, we already talked about. Khalil Shakir, really good extension. Not really immediate needs anywhere that I've noticed, but do you think there's anything that we can strengthen for this offense to maybe take it past that Chiefs level? So hopefully they can make a Super Bowl sometime in our lifetime.
Yeah, so I think you could probably upgrade on the, at the guard positions. I think the defense could use a little bit more depth. I think beyond that, you're sort of just want to be forward looking and look at the age of players like Deion Dawkins and sort of think about where you're going to be going from there. Beyond that, I think, you still want to keep throwing picks at receiver. Keon Coleman's still a little bit of an unknown quantity. Josh Palmer is apparently an eye of the beholder situation. I just want to make sure that, Josh Allen, while I'm not devoting too many resources to it, I kind of want to keep my receivers cheap. I want to continue to devote draft resources and constantly replenishing it so that I don't have to, overpay for anything in free agency or anything like that.
Yeah, agreed. One thing I do want to ask you about is there may be some drama brewing with James Cook's contract extension. One, do you think the Bills are going to extend him? And two, if they don't extend him, would you be interested in drafting a running back? Even though I think they're okay depth-wise. Ray Davis was pretty good last year.
Yeah, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson is actually a pretty awesome combination for running back. If you were going to do the poor man's RB room, which I kind of love doing when I as an NFL team, I think that's in some ways a really good appropriation of value. Though maybe this year you could argue some of the running backs were underpriced last free agency. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I agree, but whatever. Point being that. I think the James Cook deal is it's an interesting situation because of what we were talking about before, where they got all these guys on relatively favorable value. And James Cook is asking for, $15 million a year, I believe is something what he's been publicly demanding. I'm not sure what the private contract demands are. And I think that's a little bit of a tough number for him to achieve. I have to say, it's just, you're sort of operating without a lot of good precedents because of the trajectory of the RB market has always been going down. And it's a little bit hard to say, okay, but now it's going up. And we know it's going up. Yes, it is technically going up, but you actually don't have much evidence for that take, right? You just have sort of the Saquon deal reworking, which doesn't really, amount to much when you really think about it, because he just put up an insane season that you can't compare.
It's Saquon. Yeah.
Right. So James Cook, while he has awesome production, he's going to be able to compare himself to guys who really were at the top of the market. When they were, negotiating their extensions. They're either extensions from too long ago or too recently ago that you kind of struggle to actually find good comparables. So it does create a really hard situation for the team and player. I personally think that they should be able to both like find a deal where everyone's comfortable around like 13.5 a year. The Bills should be able to feel like that's going to like keep them comfortable. And like James Cook should feel like that's enough, I think. But if I were him, I would not as a running back want to like take the risk of getting to the open market where you're also like, you're not the kind of guy where like, you're like Saquon who like a team can like convince himself that like, you're like this ridiculously elite weapon, or you're Derrick Henry where they're convinced you're going to have like all these touches and sort of doing like, you're a 15 touch guy. Like I feel like that's relevant to the conversation.
Build.
Right. Like he has like in some cases like had a lot of snaps, but like that's where I sort of struggle to like pay like the running backs when you're not even like a bell cow guy. It's like, and I need to add another running back. Like, why am I paying you $13.5 million a year? But anyway, all that notwithstanding, I do think they'll probably figure it out. I wouldn't mind drafting a running back, but as you said, it's not even necessary if the situation doesn't work out because you have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, who I think both showed themselves capable of filling in the different roles that James Cook occupies.
Agreed. All right. So on to the defense, we have Greg Rousseau, a pretty solid edge defender. Not really the best situation for their interior pass rush, but Joey Bosa's on a 1-year deal, and he, at his prime, is really, really talented, just had some injury stuff. Their linebacker situation, I think, is fine. Their cornerback situation is not amazing, aside from Benford, who was recently extended. And like you mentioned, their safety situation is not so great. So do you have anything that you think we should address when it comes to the defense for this draft?
Yeah, so I definitely want someone on the interior O-line, kind of like what we were saying with Quinnen, where I want someone to just sort of take some of the weight off Ed Oliver and sort of just eat up some blocks and make create more pass rushing opportunities for him. I think you definitely need to add in the edge room. You've sort of taken a couple stabs in free agency this year, but in addition to always just wanting to add to the edge room, it should be younger, and you are hoping to probably get someone a little bit more higher caliber there. So I think both of the interior, like both defensive line spots should be attacked. Safety, as you said, out the other outside corner spot, I think Dane Jackson is like, not really a starting corner. So yeah, you're going to definitely want something there.
Cool.
And then Teron Johnson is like, he had a down year, but I wouldn't say he needs to be replaced. He should have another year to rebound. Give him another year to rebound.
I agree. So moving on to the mock draft, Bills are picking at the 30 overall position. I do not anticipate trading up, so we can kind of just go turbo here. My guess is a really good interior guy is going to fall because there's so many of them. And I was correct. Derek Harmon is still there. Darius Alexander. If you want to trade back,
I feel like we're at Luther Burden. Honestly, I feel like we have to have that conversation.
Yeah, he's really fun. He's great after the catch. He's really good in the slot, and he could be their Luther Burden receiver. So it's really up to you. Like, I don't
expect him to be on the board here. I'm so happy taking Burden. I think that's like he's immediately the best receiver in that offense, getting the chance to actually add in my opinion, like could be a true wide receiver one. I know he's like people think of him as like a small undersized slot guy, but I think he's so legit. He was so. I mean, and I'm thinking of the Luther Burden 2 years ago, but I think that's or last year rather, as opposed to this past season. But no, yeah, I think it's Burden. I'm excited about that pairing. I think getting him a guy like Burden and just sort of giving them like a lot of variability in how they can attack you with Burden and Shakir too, in terms of like the overlaps, but also different ways that they can beat you is fun. I'm into it.
Mm-hmm. And plus at 56, I think there's still going to be some good pass rushers in the interior spot. So there's just so many of them in this draft that you can afford to kind of wait on that. So yeah, Burden, I think would be a really fun pick.
We just traded for the Bills 2 second-round picks last time because it's such a fun opportunity to take 2 players there. So now we'll get to do it ourselves without having to trade for it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we don't have to make a trade for it. All right, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see who we still have available.
Not Jack Sawyer.
I like, Jack Sawyer's an intriguing edge.
No Jack Sawyer for us. Let's go. I don't hate Darian Porter here. I have to say, like we like the corner spots. But if we can find something on, do we like anyone here on the edge or interior?
I like Omar Norman Lott, but I think we can get him at 62. Mm-hmm. I think Darian Porter may go really soon. So
I don't like Shamar Turner, so I'm happy to not do that. So I think we can go Darian Porter here. I like that at the corner spot.
Yeah, and so for those who aren't aware, Porter 6'4". I don't know exactly what his 40 time was, but if you watch his tape, you're like, this guy's insanely fast, and he's 6'4", so he's that perfect pairing of size and speed. And he had like some injury stuff. His technique is not perfect, but really, really talented player. I think he'd be great for the Bills. Omar Norman Lott, we took him, I think, last draft, but I'm cool with taking him again. He's arguably like the best pure pass rusher at the interior spot. Really, really productive. 6'3", 315. Not great against the run, but I think they already have some of that covered with their linebackers. So
the only thing I would say is I kind of like Ivy here. He's just like one of those like big defensive end guys who can like, just sort of like win with like, like he's not like a huge athlete, but he just kind of like has like enormous length. He's a huge guy. Like I think he'd be just a really good fit in terms of another body on the edge room. And sort of like
makes sense.
And it potentially could be a tweener in some ways and sort of add to both rooms. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's fine with me. Jared Ivey. And at that point, I think at 109, there's still going to be some guys that may still be available. Is it JJ? I think Pegues. I don't know how to pronounce the name.
Yeah. Or Peebles is sometimes.
And Peebles is still here. Yeah, there's still some guys. Wait, let's see who's available. Yeah, to me, it's between these two, between Aeneas Peoples.
I'm not a Peoples guy.
You're not a People guy.
No. He's not like the best. He didn't test very well, and I feel like in some sense, like with interior defensive linemen, you kind of need them to be awesome athletes. I don't know what was Pegues testing. Was it strong?
It was pretty good, and what was most fun about that is that he also did run some like running back drills because they play him at fullback a lot. And, that's a little bit of value there.
Okay, that kind of speaks to the athleticism, I guess, on some level.
Yeah. All right, let's do that.
I can get more excited about this, yeah.
Agreed. All right, so 132, there's still a lot of picks left available.
Yeah, we got a lot of depth in this one.
Bayshall Tube is still there. I don't know. I don't know if you want to pick him just because of the whole contract dispute that could exist with.
We just don't. That kind of just have. It's already like they signed Darren. They just have too many. They already would have 4 running backs at that point that they need to carry, and I don't even like carrying 4 running backs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not into that.
Bowman.
We lost Quentin Morris, so I can go get like a blocking tight end, so I don't hit Urasek.
Okay. Let me see if we could trade back. 137.
And just grab. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do that. That's cool. Yeah. And then we still have Urasek. If Bowman is still there at 169, that would be a dream scenario because he's
really. Would you rather just go Bowman here then? We could just go Bowman here. I like a lot of the other tight end prospects. I'm fine doing that.
And I think we have a more immediate need at safety.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do it.
All right. And then we still have 169, 170, 173. We have a lot more. All right. All the quarterbacks that we do not want to take. RJ Oben.
We can go for Don again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
And then
it's back to back. I could go another corner here. I can go linebacker here.
Yeah, Denzel Burke. What corner?
Oh, Stutzman. I like Stutzman.
Stutzman? All right.
Danny Stutzman.
Cool.
Yeah, I like him. He's good.
And then 3 picks later, we have another pick.
Okay, we're gonna exhaust my knowledge of this range of the draft. And
wait,
we got this.
Dante
okay,
Thornton is still there.
Dante
we can get him in the
that's
next pick.
All right, done. No, 177. Yeah, we picking 4 picks again. Jesus. All right, yeah, let's bookmark that for the next one. But I like that pick a lot.
Cody Simon, Manunga is a good short yardage guy. I'm cool with going corner again. I don't know much about this guy, but let's just get him.
I don't know anything about longer beam.
And then is there anyone else that's Tonka Hemingway is pretty good.
Caleb I could go Tonka Hemingway here then.
Hemingway? All right, let's do that.
Hemingway and then what's his name? The receiver. Thornton.
Yeah. Thornton's still there. And we already talked about him, but he's 6'5". He runs a 4.3. And being a Tennessee wide receiver, his route tree is almost nothing. It's like just curls. It's just
you get to teach him how to play receiver the way you want to. In some ways, that's more fun.
That is true. And he could just be like the sacrificial X receiver if you really wanted to do that. And I think that would be a perfect role.
They just lost their Mac Hollins sacrificial X receiver. So
there you go. Works. You're right. Yeah. All right. And then we have 2 more picks left, 206 and 223. There's Jake Majors. He was a rock solid center, really good against the pass. And I think was a starter for a while, but yeah, he can call it protections if you need that. At this point, it's really,
I mean, we're about to do a Connor McGovern extension. So I don't love that.
True. And then Jason Marshall. If you want to go, have we already?
We already did tight end, right?
We did do tight end.
We don't need to double up at tight end. We already doubled up at receiver. We could probably throw another. Did we already double up at safety, or did we only throw 1 pick?
I don't believe we have. We got Billy Bowman in the 4th.
I could throw another pick at safety.
Okay, yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah, really good against the pass, 23% forced to completion rate. Rock solid safety, getting him in the, what is this, the sixth round?
Yeah, let's do Malachi Moore. I'm into that.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to love that grading wise, but I frankly don't care. Whenever you're this late, it's just get your guys.
All right, Jake Majors, if you like him as a player, we're in the 7th round here. I'm okay doing that.
Yeah, let's just do it. Smart guy. All right, what do you think our grade is going to be for this draft?
Good name.
Yeah, no, definitely a good name.
All
right, so Luther Burden gets an A. So before I scroll down,
we're gonna let's go A- here because I think we did a pretty good job of taking the guys at the top. Oh yeah, we did the other thing. Crap. Oh no, I forgot we started reaching. Oh no.
You know what? Getting Dante Thornton, he's 6'5", he runs a 4.3. Getting him in the 6th round, that's fine with me.
I don't think there's such thing as a D- 6th round pick unless you're just taking I guess Donovan Edwards, but like there's like like truthfully speaking, like you should just be like if I was an NFL team, like I would have my own version of my big board, and if I'm not an NFL team, I would just be referring to the consensus big board. Like Stutzman, that's part of why I like him is he's just a lot higher in the consensus big board than he is in the PFF mock draft. So I know that if I'm sitting there in the 5th round, I would go, oh, that guy's a really good value. We should talk about him here, and that's really what we're just sort of basing a lot of this off of, at least for me.
No, exactly. And like our first 3 picks, especially, I think address some immediate needs, and they're really high ceiling guys. And that's what you want in the draft, especially when your team's already really good, like the Bills are. And getting high ceiling guys means you could potentially take that next step at finally beating the Chiefs.
With no holes and a bunch of holes at the same time, because at the same time, like you have nowhere you really need, like, okay, we need to maybe corner. We need someone immediately there. But that's really it. Like, and that's kind of like what's fun about this. Like, you can just go like, okay, we have the 30th pick. If Luther Burden falls, and we think Luther Burden is a guy who's actually maybe potentially talent-wise one of the top 15 guys in this draft, but like maybe he's just not like a little bit of a slot receiver. There's some concerns there that he's like, but he has that upside to be like a true number, like 1 or 2 receiver. Hell yeah, we got to take that guy there. Like that's a no-brainer. I like a lot. I like this draft a lot for the Bills. I think it hits on a lot of things. I think we did a good job of like really focusing on the teams that we were sort of controlling and like, okay, how do we solve all their problems and like really think about what we would want to do if we were managing this roster. So that was fun.
It's in a lot of ways how the Eagles have operated, where whenever you have almost no holes, you could just go BPA. And I think that's what they're doing with Luther Burden. If a guy like that, who's that talented, falls to the 30th overall pick, it's like, why not take that pick? I think it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Cool. All right. So we can close that up. So were there any final thoughts on this exercise? Any favorite move that we've made, or just kind of a general summary of how we've done things so far?
So yeah, I was kind of just hitting on that, where I feel like we did a really strong job of like focusing on our team's need. My favorite move that we did, I got to say Abdul Carter to the Jets, right? Like,
that's perfect.
The odds of that happening are so low that I think I just want to live in like the fake, like that, like the version of the multiverse or like the fake universe we just created where Abdul Carter is on the Jets at like through pick 7. Like I'm just going to go move to that universe and y'all have fun here where we probably draft like Tyler Warren or something. And I hate myself. But
well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on today. Where can the listeners/viewers find your work?
Yeah, so I do some writing sometimes for the Michigan Football Analytics Society. Do their podcast sometimes, the Michigan Sports Analytics Podcast, and you can find me on Twitter at JakeGrossman0. A lot of fun, Asa. Always fun to be on the podcast, and this was a great time.
Absolutely. Well, this is Analytics with Asa, and thank you for listening.